Hey everyone, it is your man Diego Ife. Thank you for tuning in to listen to another one of my uploads. Today is story time. I'm going to share some things about me which you might not know about already. But yeah, essentially, the story time today is about the time that I scouted Bukayo Saka. Okay, and just to give you a bit of context, I played football for practically most of my life, right? I played a few positions, but by the time I'd finished playing when I was maybe in my mid 20s, I was a forward, like a centre forward sort of type of player. I'm left footed. I spent a good chunk of my life playing as a winger. Sometimes, yeah, centre forward, sometimes left back, sometimes right wing. But as the game started to become a bit more technical, the should I say the foot the what's the word I'm looking for here? Your team formats, if you will, your formations. That's the word I'm looking for. Your formations have become a bit more fluid. When you look at the way they line up on TV, you look at the formations. It's very oversimplified, very high level, right? And yeah, once that happened, I started to become one of those players that maybe like plays, between the lines. One thing about me was that I don't want to go on and on and on about my attributes, but I like playing as a winger because during the time I played, it went from, almost the whole kind of like wide mid, not to get too technical, but your wide midfielders who would hog the touchline and basically be whipping them like David Beckham, basically, right? So that was my bread and butter, left wing, bam, 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 and then whip it far post. A bit predictable, but I was skillful. I was good enough. Predictable but effective. Whip it far post, whip it far post. But it became a bit more intricate with your inverted system. And so when that happened, I now had to adapt. And I say coming up when I was coming up, so we're looking at probably your first year YTS 2004 2005 season. That would have been like my first year of like full time football. The game really was a major transitional period. Of people who follow the Premier League remember, you had Chelsea that were on the ascendancy under Jose Mourinho, for example. Arsenal were pretty much having come off the back of a 49 game unbeaten run. They were a team that were appearing to be in decline, with them selling Patrick Vieira against his own, really, his ideal wishes to Juventus in 2005. Obviously, Henri followed, maybe not straight away, but not that much after. And so, yeah, that period was a major transition period because it also marked, it was not long before Pep Guardiola came with his tiki taka. And then from then, like literally the innovations, and how the game has really just evolved. It's flourished in that time, right? So for me, with my background, I wanted to see what I would do when I stopped playing, and and one of the things that I could have gone into coaching, I didn't go into coaching just because whilst I'd done a bit of it, I probably was not as passionate about it as I was about maybe the commercial side of the game, for instance, and so that's what led me towards getting an agency license. So English Football Association, yeah, an intermediary license with them. That's when the sector was deregulated, right? But more recently, they've brought in like your agency exams. I'm not sure if it's something that I really want to explore. It's not a priority of mine. It was mainly at the time, it was almost like a part time gig. And what it entailed was going to watch semi professional football matches, youth academy football matches, pretty much on evenings and weekends, particularly Saturday afternoons. So that's what it entailed. Now, there was one fateful day in November 2018 when I went with one of my friends to watch Arsenal playing I think it was Europa League group stages match. I think it was against one team, Voska, one name like that. Anyhow, so I went to watch the game with my friend. Interesting game. The manager at the time was a man called Unai Emery, who's now the Aston Villa manager. And lo and behold, and funnily enough, it was more coincidental. I didn't go to the game specifically to watch Bukayo Saka. I just went to watch the game for general scouting reasons, and it just so happened he was making his first full debut. Just turned 17. Well, turned 17 2 months prior. And Unai Emery had marked him out as one for the future. Now, my agent mentor, Tony Finnegan, who used to play for Crystal Palace, he told me that when you scout a player, they're allowed to give the ball away 4 times. No more than that. So if a player shows all kinds of indicators, potential, he cannot give the ball away more than 4 times. So I was watching it. My friend, Anders at the time, when we were watching it together, he said, man, I don't know about this one. I said, wait. Not everybody that watches my, videos is a football fan, but he reminded me of a player that played for Valencia, like in the noughties, called Vicente. And just his poise on the ball, how when I played as a winger, a lot of the time, a lot of the wingers were not the best footballers, but they were very effective at what they did. Getting it down the wing, far post, ball carrying. But with him, you could see that he was really kind of mapping out a picture of the play that were, and this is for a 17-year-old. So you could see that he was always looking to be, he was always on the front foot, no sort of sideways passes. He gave a good account of himself. And I went away from that game thinking, yeah, I hope this is not the last I saw him. But from then, yeah, I said, this is the guy. This is the guy. So these times I was, very new into it. I don't have a reputation as an agent. I almost have to identify the talent and leverage off my agency network. So I did reach out to him to propose representation, but of course someone else who's more established in the game beat me to it, and kudos to him. I believe his name's Emeka Obasi, but yeah, more power to him. And I think he also represented Jadon Sancho at a point, and possibly Eddie Nketiah. But I digress. So Bukayo Saka, when I saw him, I said, this guy is going to go far. Can I say that I anticipated he would go as far as he has? No. Only the reason why, well, not only reason, there's several reasons. When he got an extended run in the team after having played, and he made his debut as a left winger, right? When he went back into the team, his foothold into the team was as being a left back. And not many people know that in his youth, he was a left back before he got moved further up, right? So that might impact the way that he approaches the game. So I could see that, yeah, this guy has a lot of, potential. And, Smart came in at left back, got a foothold, and then as, Arteta ball started to take root, the master stroke of moving him out to the right is pretty much what has taken his game to, dizzying heights, if I'm being honest. It's really unlocked his potential as an utter masterstroke. But what I'm saying is, why I say that I wasn't sure he would get to that point was because Arsenal had a record signing in Nicolas Pepe. I think he came to us for about 72 million, right? And Arsenal it was incumbent on them. They have to get the value. They have to get the value out of it, right? A lot of scrutiny on that decision to actually sign him. Then you also have the issue where Phil Foden's about a year and a bit older than him, and he was hyped up far more than Saka was ahead of time, right? So Saka relatively flew under the radar, even as recent years. I think it was the Euro 2020 Championship, right? Obviously, it was delayed to 2021. It was expected that Foden was a nailed-on starter, right? And through merit, Bukayo Saka played himself into contention, and he's not looked back since. So my point is that I saw him and I said, this guy has a lot of potential. But the thing was, I said, there's some things that I can identify. I can relate with, because I played a similar position. I played left wing. I also played right wing sometimes, back, those years back. And so what I would notice was that when he found himself, on the right side, right, waiting to receive the ball, initially speaking, he wasn't the most proactive. What my coach at Chelsea, Neil Bath, would say, check in, check out. So essentially, you're you're almost like a ballet dancer, like pirouetting, if you will. You know, so that you're able to literally go in either direction. So I noticed that he'd often receive the ball, not lose it, but basically pass it back, pass it sideways. What I said was, if I was his coach, I would tell him to play on the shoulder. He pirouettes, but you always try to basically get your defender to go the other end, and you basically make the inward kind of progress, if you're inward penetration, rather than going on the outside of your opponent, you go on the inside. So it just gives you that extra angle. You get the ball enough amount, you know, enough times in the game, you're gonna basically create something, and he's the man when it comes to end product. So I said that's what I would do if that's the little piece. And from then, boy, like, you know, it's not just his numbers, yeah, which have become like, but it's also the game intelligence. It's not static. It's grown. It's evolving, and having, you know, a mentor in Mikel Arteta. I mean, you know, he can't go too wrong, can he? So that is my story. A bit of extra information on my first time scouting Bukayo Saka and fruitless efforts to basically get him to a representation agreement. But listen, thank you for listening to me. Much appreciated. Feel free to drop any comments, questions in the comment section. Please do like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and tell your friends to subscribe also. Thank you again, and take care.